when he was put on the limelight, trying to explain why the Quran doesn't talk about the Passover, he thinks the Passover was comparable to the Goa. What kind of scholar is he?
Quran never said the tower was built. Quran says Pharaoh asked for tower for built, and then Quran also tells us when that was happening, Pharaoh chased Moses and Pharaoh was drowned.
In other words, according to you, tafsirs of errors, hadiths of errors, according to you. Yeah.
Quran rejects what there is a lie in the Bible, and Quran confirms which is the truth.
In other words, Islam is not a logical extension of the Bible that we have. Do you agree?
Ask the children of Israel about that when these signs came forth.
So how many signs?
9 clear signs.
Surah 27 verse, ayah 12
9
now.
clear signs. Ask the children of Israel about that when these signs came forth. Pharaoh said to him, Moses, I think that you are bewitched.
Surah, okay.
I'm reading the whole context. Moses replied.
So how many has happened?
Hold on, wait. So 9 signs happened, and then Pharaoh let him go, isn't it?
No.
Exactly.
No, that's what he's saying. That's what
the Quran is saying.
So no,
That's what the Quran is saying.
So you believe the same as well?
Nope.
9 happened, and then they let it go. Okay.
No.
So here is the point. Exactly the point.
You know well that no one but the Lord of the heavens and the earth has sent these as eye-opening proofs. I truly think, O Pharaoh, that you are indeed doomed. I'm going to read the whole context, yeah? At last, Pharaoh decided to uproot Moses and the children of Israel and from the land. But we drowned him together with all who were with him. And thereafter, we said to the children of Israel, now dwell in the land. Okay, 9 signs happen here. Okay.
So how many signs? The Quran has counted. You don't have to count.
That's fine.
You don't even need to know how. Who. What.
Let's say
9 signs happen.
Okay. So let's say Quran says 9 signs happens. Yeah. Now you need to show me that Quran is denying that the sign of the blood and the children of Israel, Egyptians will die.
It's not there at all.
It doesn't.
Abbas.
No,
Abbas, it foreshadows Jesus Christ. Amen.
Abbas,
All right.
you were quite candid. You were candid enough to say, after you read that verse, you said, Arul, so you agree, after the 9th sign, the nation of Israel was sent away.
Right.
You said that.
Yeah.
In other words, a simple reading of the surah and the ayah that we gave you, which is, which one is that?
He's just expounding on that.
17, surah 17.
I want you to understand
ayah
one thing.
101.
I want you to understand one thing.
Surah 17, ayah 101. A simple reading of it is quite clear. According to the Quran,
Allah has given 9 signs.
9 signs.
No problem.
Plenty of problem. No problem for you.
You have to let me speak as well.
No problem for you, but plenty of problem for me and the Jews. And the most important problem is this. The 10th sign, if you go and ask a Jew, do you celebrate the coming of the frogs into the nation of Egypt? Do you celebrate that? They would say, what is that? We don't celebrate that.
Yeah.
If you ask them, do you celebrate the sending of the locusts into the nation of Egypt? They'd say no. If you ask them, do you celebrate the waters becoming blood in the nation of Egypt? They'd say no. So if you ask them, out of all the plagues that happened, out of all the signs that you saw, which one do you celebrate?
Yes.
What would they say? They would say, we celebrate the Passover.
Right.
And what is the Passover? The Passover is the sacrificial lamb. The lamb which was sacrificed during which of those signs? The 10th sign. When the 10th sign, which is the killing, the slaughter of the firstborn sons happened,
Brother, you are on and on and on. You're going too long. Let me answer you as well, because I got your point. Quran, according to you, missing the Passover sign.
And according to you also. Okay, just no. According to you, you clearly said.
If you carry on monologue, then I just walk away. Wallahi, I will walk.
Let's have
You have to let me speak as well, and have some courage as a Christian. Let me speak as well. Now you are saying, since Quran says there are 9 signs, clearly Quran is denying the Passover sign. You're wrong here. Now you need to show me the sign. I'm sure you have studied the Quran about this 10 signs thing. You need to tell me that the Quran count the signs 9 signs. Show me where the Quran missed out on Passover sign, but Quran mentioned other 9 signs, which you can't. I am sure you can't. What I'm saying is here, to your counting there are 10 signs, but the Quran counting there are 9 signs. And Quran not denying the Passover sign unless you show me
no
Quran.
Passover lamb in there.
Brother,
Sorry, bro.
Yeah, but
unless you show me, brother,
hearing
unless you show me your 9 signs are mentioned in the Quran, but the 10th is not mentioned, then you have a point. You cannot count. I want you to show me the frog sign, the blood sign, the insects coming in, and then you count 9 in the Quran, but Passover is missing. What I'm saying is this: it's possible the Passover is part of those 9 signs. Yes, so according to the Quran, there are 9. According to you, there are 10. Unless if you cannot prove that, then you don't have a point.
Can you open that?
You understand what I'm saying?
I understood what you said.
So
but
what you saying?
You're going against your own earlier
No,
point.
no. You were earlier saying Quran deny the Passover sign. Now Quran is not denying the Passover sign. All Quran is saying there are 9 signs. According to the Bible,
can you please
you
take
say
the
10
Quran?
signs. Yes.
Surah 17, Ayah 101.
Yes. Allah given Moses 9 signs. Fine. Now you count the 9
it's
signs.
not fine. You say fine. It's not fine. You, when I asked you to read this earlier,
Yes.
so what does the verse, Surah 17, Ayah 101 say?
We have given Moses 9
We
signs.
granted Moses 9 clear signs.
Right. And
Ask
what
the
are those
children
9
of
signs?
Israel about that. When these signs came forth, Pharaoh said to him, Moses, I think that you are
I think we
bewitched.
need to open the chapter 7 and we count the
When-
signs.
Yeah.
Let's see.
When you read that, would you agree, please, that you asked me? So Arul, do you agree with? Because I think you were a bit confused whether it was 9 or 10. You asked me.
I wasn't confused.
Arul,
I said I
do you
didn't count
agree?
it.
Arul,
I was never confused.
did
brother.
you ask me, Arul? Do you agree that at the end of 9 signs, the Pharaoh let Israel leave? Did you not ask that or not?
Oh, Quran says that clearly.
In other words, the Quran, a simple reading of this verse is clear that at the end of 9 signs, the nation of Israel was left off.
And that's how. There
If
were
you
no more
count,
signs.
if you count 1, 2, 3, 5, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, if you count like that 1 to 9, not 1 to 10, which sign would you miss out?
Read the Quran. Let's say Quran.
I'm asking you.
Consecutively.
If there are 10
read
signs,
the signs.
excuse me.
That's according to you, there are 10
Abbas,
signs.
no,
Quran
I'm
didn't
asking
accept
you.
there were 10 signs.
I'm
Quran
asking
says
you.
9 signs.
I'm asking you if there are 10 signs according
According
to the
to you.
according to the Bible.
Yes.
If there are 10 signs,
And we don't follow the Bible.
But
Just in case if you don't know.
if the Quran counts from 1 to 9 and then says the nation of Israel was let off, which sign has the Quran left out?
Probably the frog ones, probably the wasp ones, probably that one. But what you cannot prove this one thing, the Quran is left out the Passover. I tell you why. Because what happened according to Bible account, when the 10th sign occurred, Pharaoh gave up. Pharaoh said, go, I'll let you go. Here, according to Quran said when the 9th sign occurred,
Yes.
Pharaoh said, give up, go.
What is the
now,
9th sign?
No, hang on. According to Bible, it's different sign. But you need to show me according to Quran,
So-
Passover sign doesn't happen.
So
Brother,
let's
brother,
do
brother,
a simple
no,
thing. Abbas. Let's do a simple thing,
brother,
please.
brother.
So
Alright,
doing-
your
first
original,
of all-
are we going to talk over like that?
First of
Are
all-
we going to talk over like that? Your original point was Quran denied the Passover sign.
So you're
Where
arguing.
did you learn that from?
So you're arguing against that now. So shall we go to some more fundamental point?
Why don't
now?
you read the signs in the Quran, brother?
Do
let's-
we agree?
Brother has chapter 7. We
Do we
read the
agree?
sign. Why you not
yeah,
letting
let
me?
him get that.
Okay, chapter
But
7.
in the meantime-
no, we're gonna count. No.
In the meantime-
no, it's no
Do we
meantime.
agree?
No meantime.
Do we agree?
We're gonna read the signs.
Do we agree that the Quran contradicts the Bible? Do we agree on
Oh, yeah,
that?
Quran reject the Bible mostly. Absolutely.
So
Quran
in
never
other
said
words,
that. Yes.
in other words, Quran is not a logical extension of the Bible. Do we agree?
Quran is a word revelation of God and confirms the previous revelation.
That's silly.
And your
if
Bible,
the Quran rejects
your
the
Bi-
Bible, you said a moment ago the Quran rejects the Bible.
Quran-
you can't
Quran
can't
says
both
reject-
reject and confirm at the same time.
No. As a Bible, as a whole, Quran reject because Quran says the books have been distorted. They have write with their own hands, and they say it's from God.
I'm
but
not
at the
asking you
same-
what the Quran thinks. The Quran can think all sorts of
Quran-
fancy things. That's not
I'm
my
asking-
question. The question is,
As a whole,
do
Quran
you
rejects the
agree?
Bible. As a whole.
Do you agree that the Quran goes against the Bible?
Against the Bible, Quran rejects what there is a lie in the Bible, and Quran confirms which is the truth.
In other words,
This is a-
Islam is not a logical extension of the Bible that we have. Do you agree?
Islam is a logical
It's not
It's not a logical extension.
Of course it's
So
not.
you can't go around claiming we follow the same
Islam-
God, we follow the same,
Islam,
we go with the same Mosaic.
I'll answer you. Islam is a logical extension of the truth revealed in the past. That's what Islam is.
No,
Islam, if you're asking me, Islam
question
is the
was simple.
extension of the lie, then Quran, Islam is not, because Bible as a whole is a lie.
There we go.
Yes.
So a Muslim,
Which God is
so in other words, a Muslim would see.
Okay.
In other words, a
I
Muslim.
I don't know if you're doing that deliberately.
in other
I
words-
want him to read the
in
Quran
other words,
and prove
a
the 9
Muslim
signs, and
sees-
Passover is missing, but there's other 9 signs. And I think you deliberately
In other
doesn't
words,
want him to read.
in other words,
Okay, enough of
you
yours.
are saying
Let's read the Quran.
the Bible is a lie.
As a whole, Bible is a lie. Of course, it's a
Okay,
lie.
so in other words, Muslims
You're
are
asking
quite
a Muslim,
clear.
of course. I'm not saying that. Quran says that.
Muslims-
Chapter 5, verse
Muslim-
13 and 14 say the Quran, Bible, the Jews have distorted it. Chapter 2, verse 79 said they write with their own hands, and this is from God. And there are many verses in the Quran which rejects the lies and all.
So,
That's why there are so
Brother
many
Darren, this
contradictions.
is this is the important point I'd really like to make at this stage, which is
Why are you not letting him read? Is there any
by
reason?
all means. But let's
We want to read
let's
and count.
Let's
We want to read the count.
Let's-
Yes, he's preaching here.
Let's wrap this up and then he can read. The important point here is Muslims have rejected the Bible as we have it today,
Absolutely.
and that's
Anything. Look,
that's
even you know that even the Hindus, if they say something truth, even if we don't believe it, we say that's in the Quran, and we agree with you. If Hindu says, what was the word says, there is no God but one God.
What
in
you
their
really
Vedas.
mean-
Islam believes
What-
that even we don't agree with Hindu
what
version.
you really
So
mean-
wherever Bible says goes with the Quran, we
What
say,
you really
Ahlan
mean-
wa sahlan, we agree.
what
we
you
accept
really
it.
what you really mean by your last couple of statements is that only the Quran is true. If
Absolutely.
someone agrees with the Quran, that is true. If someone says something else, it's not true. That's what you mean.
Surprised
in other
if
words,
it contradicts
in
the
other
Quran,
words,
yeah.
in other words,
How long you been coming to
in
speakers call?
in other words,
surprise,
bro,
surprise.
in other
That's
words,
exactly what we
in other words,
believe.
in other words, you reject the Bible.
Oh yeah, as a whole.
Good.
Absolutely.
So that's exactly what I want to get on record.
Does that come surprise to you? You know me for so long. You
It's-
reject the Bible as a whole, of course. And I am reading the Bible. Bible is even the scholars are telling us many books are fabrications. There is no we
No,
don't
as
know
a whole,
who.
you've rejected it. Yeah, the Bible
Even
is
your
a lie.
scholars have rejected it
No,
as
no,
a
no,
whole.
forget about
Yes.
my school. I'm asking you.
Even the Christian
Hold on,
scholars have
hold on.
rejected it.
Isn't the Islamic perspective
Go on,
that some of what's in the Bible, what agrees with the Quran,
Abbas,
that's
you
the
ready?
Bible we agree with.
Brother, Quran is a Muhaymin.
Yeah, I know.
Is a criterion. Confirms the right, correct, and reject the wrong. That's Muhaymin means. It's a yardstick, Quran. That's what we believe.
let's
So
go,
anyway,
let's go.
let's read, and he's going to prove now. Quran, we count the nine signs given to Moses, and the Passover is missing. So we need to count 9.
So,
Then you have a
I'm
point.
reading from 133, still Surah 7, yeah?
Surah 7, 133.
Yeah.
Is that 133, brother?
Say again?
133.
Yeah, 133, yeah.
Okay. We're going to count the 9 signs.
Right, so we let
There's
loose
a flood.
upon
Then
them
we afflicted
floods,
them with a great flood.
the locusts,
Locusts,
lice,
lice. Hang on. The flood is the one comes in the end. That's not a part of the sign.
Well, obviously Quran is wrong.
No.
There's no floods.
Obviously
There's
Quran is
No,
wrong.
no, flood was when they were drowned, and that happened after the 9.
No, no, no,
Go
no,
and
no,
tell
no,
the
no,
Quran
there's
you-
no-
What is the
floods.
flood? What is the flood here?
Darren.
The only other thing that happened with the now,
What is the flood? Look, this probably
Let me
refers
let me
to the torrential
finish.
rain accompanied by hailstorm. Okay.
that happened at the sea, not at the Nile.
Okay, fair enough. Okay,
right,
flood.
but let's continue. So floods,
Locusts.
locusts, lice,
Lice,
frogs. Have you got blood in there?
frogs, 4,
And
blood,
okay. And
5.
that's it. That's
5.
That's all that it's got.
5. No, we need to count 9 signs.
That's all that you've got.
Wow.
But then
That's
he
all
says
that you
9 in
got.
the other place.
So this
Where's
is
the other 4?
So your point.
You need to tell us where the
No,
others
no,
are.
no, hang on.
They need to tell us
Brother.
where they are.
Brother.
Because we can't see no
Okay,
sign of the
What
Passover.
I would
okay.
say,
So the
what I
Quran
would
mentions
say,
5.
what I would
That's
say,
right.
Yeah, if
That's
it mentions
right.
5,
But
it says there were 9.
Quran
It
says.
says there were 9,
Yeah.
but it mentions 5.
Yeah.
So
So
it doesn't mention the other 4.
brother,
It
Darren,
doesn't
it
mention the
doesn't mention the other
Passover
four,
lamb
they
at all.
argue.
Right,
Their argument is
so,
bogus.
No.
It's
Let me
a
tell you the
this is
reason.
what we call bogus
Let me
argument. It's
speak
over,
for a
man.
minute. The reason why the 10th plague and the Passover lamb is important is because that was the plague that allowed the Israelites to be let go, and then Pharaoh
The
chased
Quran
them.
doesn't deny that.
Secondly,
He's saying Quran deny that.
Secondly-
He's saying the early Quran.
Hang on a second.
Arul, why you lie, brother?
Hang on a second. Secondly, let me make this last point. The last point is, in order for them to have the meal of the Passover lamb, the bones of the Passover lamb were not broken. And that was the same as happened to Jesus Christ. Therefore,
He's preaching now.
I'm telling you
how
why
does it
Allah
relate?
would not want it revealed. Because it symbolizes and it foreshadows Jesus Christ. That's why.
Okay, now can I speak now?
Wait.
Why after
Before you
preaching?
No, wait.
You are accusing Islam, but you are having a discussion.
Let's stick to the original point. Stick to the original point.
Abbas, my point in this regard is quite
Basically,
simple.
your point is no point. Agree that.
Your point is
you have no point.
proven.
If you listen,
Finish.
If you listen.
Go on.
My point is pretty simple.
Yeah.
And my point is this.
Yes.
If you ask any Jew,
Yes.
any Jew who walks around here,
Joseph, anybody else.
any
Yeah.
Jew is who you know of,
Okay.
and ask them to tell you about a few signs which they know of.
God, you already said this before, man.
It's okay. Let him say.
Off the top of their head, even if he knows nothing about, even if he remembers nothing
Yes.
about any other sign, do you know which sign they would surely know of?
How are you guys? Okay.
Do you know which sign they would surely know of?
Okay, what's your point, man?
Do you-
Why do you talk like this? I don't understand.
Do you know
Says a
which
bunch of
sign
words without saying
they would
anything.
surely know of? Do you
Passover,
know?
of course.
Exactly. So the one sign they would talk about, if they spoke only about one, would be the Passover. Here your Quran speaks about 9. It gives a list of 5 there.
Yeah.
Yet doesn't talk about the one important sign any Jew would talk about. That will be the paramount thing in their mind. And there is a very particular reason for that. Number one. And the reason that would be paramount for them is that the Passover. and
Shall we put the alarm on when the alarm goes? Then you're going to stop.
Well, you can put the alarm on. You can put the
Because
alarm on if you
mashallah,
want.
yes. Okay.
The reason the Jews would remember only that, if even if they,
I got
even
your
if they,
point. I got your point. Now your query
the
and
reason,
your accusation
the
should
reason,
be.
the
question should be.
reason is that's a defining moment of the origin of the nation of Israel. The defining moment. The Islam, when it completely forgets about that, and I am going to say when it gives the 9, it deliberately ignores that 10th. Like how you agreed and you asked me about earlier, which is after the 9 they were sent off. The reason they do that is because they want to deny. Islam and the Quran wants to ignore the crucial element of the origin of the nation of Israel, which is redemption through blood and coming out as a redeemed people, because God Himself sacrificed, God Himself gave this system of sacrificial lamb for the nation of Israel. Islam completely forgets about that.
Okay. When I came in the beginning, you were very clear about this. The Quran denied that 10th sign and it only give 9 signs. That's what you were saying when I came earlier. Now what we learn here, Quran never denied the Passover. What your question should be, why Quran did not mention the Passover, and that would be a better question.
difference.
No,
There's a
no,
difference.
it's my
That's
turn.
not
It's
like
my,
question.
it's
Hold
my
on,
turn.
man.
It's my. You should ask that. Not what you were so clear that Quran denied the Passover. That's exactly what it said. That's in the video, and you cannot prove that Quran denied it. What do you say? Quran doesn't mention it. That's not the same thing. You argue from the silence, and that's not the. And we don't. I don't know. I'm not a scholar. There is a wisdom. Maybe there's a hikmah why Allah doesn't mention the Passover. Why Allah doesn't mention the Passover sign? A scholar can explain. Maybe there's a reason. There's a hikmah behind that. Allah doesn't seem to mention that. But it's not the same, brother. It's not that Quran is rejecting it. And also, when you count 10, Quran count 9. So there's an argument who's right and who's wrong. Yes? Quran counting 9, your count is 10. So that's the difference. And we don't follow the Bible. If I follow the Bible, then I say, yeah, Quran is missing out 1. For Quran counting is 9. We know the distortion happened in the Bible all the time. So there is maybe the 10th sign was added in.
When did distortion happen in the Bible?
Bible has many contradictions. Many scripts disagree with each other.
When did distortion? 10 plagues.
You know what?
Nine
You know what?
plagues.
No, in
Is there-
general.
You know what
the Bible in
distortion
general.
is?
Is there?
You know what distortion is? Fabrication,
there-
interpolation,
Yeah.
or taking out things, or adding things, and you agree?
Is
that
there-
in the
do you
Bible?
agree?
Do you
Hold on,
agree
talks
the manuscripts have
about
additions? Do you agree that manuscripts have additions? and taken out things?
Do you agree?
Any manuscript with 9 plagues?
He agrees actually. He's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
wait,
Do you
Any
agree?
manuscript with
Do
9
you agree?
plagues?
Hold on, bro.
Any manuscript with 9 plagues?
No, I'm not saying that the manuscript. Well, hang on. The oldest manuscript you have is 2,100
You don't even
years
have
old.
the original Bible.
Moses lived 3,400 years ago. Yes. And the oldest manuscript you have is 2,100 years old.
No,
so
no,
there is
no.
a 1,300 year gap. We don't know when later on they decided we going to put 10-1 and the oldest manuscript which doesn't exist probably have 9.
Question.
We don't
Any
know. They probably have. Because the oldest manuscript, as I'm saying, you have 1,300 year
Abbas.
gap.
Abbas.
Many things can
Abbas.
happen in
Abbas.
1,300 years.
Abbas.
So your original point
Every
has been
evidence,
answered.
every evidence in the nation of Israel, every
He
evidence.
can answer you about why Quran doesn't
He
mention
makes,
Passover.
things, he makes things up as he goes on.
He's never spoken to me anyway.
And Joseph the Jew complains about it.
This is mashallah Sheikh, brother. Brother, his question is why Quran doesn't mention the Passover sign.
No,
in
the
the
question.
Quran. Why it's
the
not
question,
there?
The question.
So that means
First he
Quran is
said-
rejecting the Passover sign.
Yeah,
It's a difference here. Quran is
So-
not rejecting it. It
so-
doesn't mention, doesn't mean it's
Quran
rejecting
doesn't
it.
mention guavas.
It doesn't mention. It
It
only
doesn't
mentions
mention.
5.
It doesn't mention.
Ask him that question,
It doesn't
mashallah.
mention watermelon.
He
That's
thinks.
knowledge.
Your scholar. Your scholar. What's
I'm not
your
a
name?
scholar. I'm not a scholar.
What's your name again?
I'm not a scholar.
So your scholar.
Scholars are always humble.
Yes,
They say they're
yes.
scholar. He will say, but I don't think he's a scholar.
What's your name?
My name is Adnan.
Adnan. So your scholar Adnan thinks the reason Quran doesn't mention the Passover
He didn't say anything
is the same as the fact that as the reason that Quran doesn't talk about Goas. That's what he said. So to him,
That's what he basically saying.
Yeah, that's
I can't-
logical
I
thing.
can't speak for him, but what I understood is, what I
can't
understood
pronounce
is
that
imagine
properly.
Quran doesn't
Do you
mention
see? Do you see a fundamental problem here? Goavas is not a defining thing in the nation of Israel, whereas the Passover is.
He was joking, of course. He
No. He was making
He was joking.
a scholar.
He can answer you that.
A
He can
scholar,
answer you
when it comes to a serious thing, joking. Is that what you're telling me?
that. People joke here all the time. People even mock all the time. So the basic point here, Arul,
Abbas,
Arul,
the basic
you are
point
arguing
is
from
simple.
the silence.
No, that is
And-
not my argument. That is
You
not.
always argue from the silence. You always. Remember you talking about that,
his
God
argument
will-
has been killed, man.
God
Bro,
has
listen.
what? Oh, they
Ended, man.
they
Game over.
Chapter 58. Didn't you argue earlier? I wanted to talk to you about that as well. The tall tower. The
I'll come to
tower
that. I'll
with
come
the
to that.
clay, big clay. That was the argument from the silence. Do you know that?
I'll come to that in a bit.
Okay, lovely.
Good to see you. I'll come to that. I'll come to that in a bit, Abbas.
Brother.
So the fundamental.
Remember, devil is always in the detail, yeah? Of course. Yes, inshallah.
Or not.
I'll not as well. I agree with that as well. I'll not as well.
The devil is in the detail that Abbas discussed. The devil is exactly there in the detail of the
Brother,
Quran.
why you say calling yourself devil? I'm not calling you. I'm not discussing with the devil.
Abbas, the fact of the matter.
I'm joking as well.
The fact of the matter. The facts of the matter are these. Number one, the Quran rejects the Bible.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Why are you debating
Number
yourself?
two.
Yeah, we agree that.
Number two, the
Quran reject any falsehood, and false Bible as a whole is falsehood.
No, I'm not asking you to use terms falsehood and truth and so on. We haven't established which one is true, which one is false. So far, we haven't. So let's stick to
can,
simple
if you
terms. We can, which we'll get on to in a minute, please. First point, Quran rejects the Bible. Second point, Quran rejects the defining moment of the nation of Israel according to the Bible. Now, in terms of the historicity of the Passover, Abbas, in terms of the historicity of the Passover meal is still taken by the nation of Israel. The Jews, even today, do that.
They're still waiting for
The
Messiah
Pesach.
as well. Still this day,
The
they're still
Pesach.
waiting for Messiah. That doesn't make them
That's
right.
not the question. The question is the Passover meal is still happening. Yeah. The Passover is a remembrance of something which happened in their past. Today we know they are still doing it. What we also know is even from before the time of Jesus, they were doing it. Outside of the Bible, even from before the time of Jesus, we have evidences, we have historical records of the Passover being celebrated outside of the Bible. In other words, the Bible talks about the Passover. Outside of the Bible, we have evidences to suggest
So Quran ignores Passover. So what?
no. Outside of the
Passover is not a religion.
Abbas, The Bible talks about the Passover. Outside of the Bible, we have evidences for the fact that Jews, the nation, Jews commemorated Passover from even the time before Jesus Christ. We have these two evidences. On top of these, we also know until today they do it. The question now is, despite these three specific evidences, why do you think the Passover is not important, did not happen?
Well, as I say, scholar might be there may be answer to that question, and I can look into that, and I'll come back to it because I didn't look into that very carefully. The Passover thing is not mentioned in the Quran, but I'm sure there's an answer to that. But you have to give me, maybe next week I'll come. Next week I'm not coming. Week after next I will come and I'll answer you that. But I'm even looking at. I'm sure there's a good reason why Passover is not mentioned. Maybe there's a maybe there is a mention somewhere in a passing.
The good reason Islam ignores the Passover is the fact that Islam wants to deliberately ignore the defining moment of the nation of Israel. That is the good reason.
That's one point. Let me just make.
No, why then Allah mentioned about this? Allah rescued children of Israel from Pharaoh. If Allah wanted to completely ignore them, Allah is mentioning He rescued them from Pharaoh.
But that was ignoring the sacrificial system, which is a defining moment of the nation of Israel.
I wouldn't say He's ignoring it. There is maybe a reason He didn't.
Not mentioning is ignoring.
He didn't mention the Passover.
Not mentioning is ignoring.
That's what I'm saying, to my knowledge. But it may be somewhere.
So come
I
up
may be missed out by you.
Please come
next week. I'm not coming next week. But week after next.
Please come up with your research view.
But you see. But when you say Quran deny, don't use the word Quran deny. And that's what he said. Denying meaning, when Allah said that doesn't happen, that's a deny. Quran never say that doesn't happen.
9 signs. Which sign does Quran deny? Tell me.
No. You earlier clearly says Quran deny the Passover. So
you tell me which sign Quran denies.
You know what? In your English language, deny means rejecting it. So Quran is not rejecting
9
it.
Instead of 10 means it's rejecting.
No, you keep playing with the numbers. What I'm saying is Quran count 9, you count 10. Now, which one?
So something has been rejected. Which one is that?
You are with surety saying the Quran is rejecting denying the Passover.
Which one?
And that's
is it
not the right.
Then?
Quran doesn't mention 10.
I'm asking
9.
you.
Quran doesn't even mention 9. Quran mentions 5. Yeah. So you cannot say it's you can't say it was the Passover one. You can't say that because
I'm asking you which one.
Quran only mentioned 4, 5.
So which one is it rejecting?
Okay, give me 10, then I'll tell you which one. I'm going to tell you, give my guesswork. Go on, count 10. 10, count 10. Count 10 in the Bible.
The Quran doesn't know about the Passover.
Tell me your 10.
I'm
going to answer you. Ask me a question.
I'll give you a hint.
No, don't give me a hint. Just tell me the 10 signs.
Blood, frogs, lice, flies, livestock, boils, hail, locust, darkness, death of firstborn.
What do you say? Livestock.
Yeah.
I say livestock.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Boom.
Why would God kill livestock? Yeah. Why would you kill livestock? Everybody eat livestock. You have to eat. I say livestock is a fabrication. Prove me wrong.
The proof is.
You see, it's very easy, man.
The proof is. Quran obviously does not talk about the one sign which any Jew would talk about first thing.
The Quran doesn't mention about the other 5. Quran mentions 5. You agree with 5, but the other 5 Quran doesn't mention according to the Bible. So why do you say it has to be the Passover one? Why?
The significance.
Why do you say it could be livestock?
Significance.
Let me mention this carefully again.
It's in Leviticus 23.
A Jew, even if he does not remember the remaining 9, he would remember the Passover.
Allah is not a Jew. Do you know that? Allah is not a Jew.
Hoping Allah would remember all 10.
So Jew might have remembered, or it's very important. For Allah is not a Jew. He picked and whichever he mentioned, the other. That doesn't mean he's denying the Passover. He doesn't mention Passover.
Allah's memory.
There's a difference.
So, Abbas,
that's what I'm saying. That's to my knowledge.
You really brought up a very good point.
Yeah. But
my point there is.
I'm pretty sure I can give you a very
Allah,
valid answer in 2 weeks' time. And
Abbas,
I'm pretty sure somewhere.
My precise point there is, purely because you brought up the memory of Islamic Allah, my precise point is, the one thing which a Jew would remember, Islamic. The one thing which a Jew would remember, the Islamic Allah doesn't seem to remember. The one thing which a Jew would remember, the Islamic Allah doesn't seem to remember.
Allah doesn't mention, doesn't mean he doesn't remember.
Well, Allah
If he doesn't mention, that doesn't mean he doesn't mention.
the one thing the Jew would speak about, Islamic Allah doesn't seem to talk about.
Jews say many things wrong. I'm just saying that. I'm just saying Jews say many things they have believed wrong.
let's
All right.
wrap this up here.
No. So the point I'm making here is
Find out when you come next place
I will.
which particular sign you think has been rejected.
No,
and let's discuss from there.
I'm going to find
Now,
out the
if you want-
Passover, why Allah doesn't mention Passover.
Yeah.
Or if he
If
mentioned
you want to
Allah.
mention anything else, talk
Yeah,
about that.
so what we have to understand is the actual significance of the Passover lamb as far as the Bible is concerned and as far as the New Testament is concerned. And the significance simply is that Christ was crucified at the time of Passover, and when John announced Jesus at his ministry, he says, "Behold the Lamb of God that come to take away the sins of the world." Also, the Passover lamb, as I've said before, his bones were not broken. When the Roman soldiers came to test if Jesus was dead, he was dead already, and they did not need to break his bones. It's called a messianic prophecy. It foreshadows Christ on the cross and his death and atonement, blood atonement for our sins. That's why the blood was painted above the doorposts of the house, and that's why we are submitting the point that the Quran doesn't have it, because it's trying to deny the death and the resurrection of Jesus Christ.
In other
So
words-
therefore it wouldn't show up in other things that symbolize it.
Brother Darren,
Yes.
in other words, a term which I'd like to use
Yeah,
here is there seems to be a pattern.
Right.
Quran,
And I've got more patterns I could bring up.
Quran wants to reject the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus.
What do you mean wants to? Quran did reject it.
Yeah. So the
Quran
Quran
wants to reject. Quran
The
clearly
Quran
rejected.
rejects that.
It was not him.
So the pattern that we see is that the Quran rejects that, and the Quran says there were only 9.
9 sons, that's right.
So there seems to be a pattern here, and the Quran completely forgets about the one sign which a Jew would remember
Don't say forget.
out of all 10.
I told you
So
don't
there
say
seems to be a
forget. He
pattern.
doesn't mention, doesn't mean
So there
forget.
seems to be a pattern involving 3 crucial elements: rejecting the later Passover, the actual eternal Passover lamb,
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Amen.
Completely ignoring the fact of a defining moment, which is the Passover lamb in the nation of Israel from the Old Testament. And then the third one, not mentioning that at all, and saying there are only 9. These 3 together gives us a solid case, a reasonable case to suggest that the Quran seems to want to deny even the Old Testament Passover occurrence. So that's the pattern. Now you want to talk about the break.
I congratulate
Egypt,
you.
Egypt Tower.
I congratulate you on one thing. When I came here in the beginning, you were categorically saying the Quran denied the Passover. Now you have improved, got a little bit better, more towards truth. You're saying Quran seems like wants to deny the Passover.
There is a pattern.
So there's a difference here.
There
yeah.
is a pattern.
So, earlier,
Denying the crucifixion of
earlier you were
Jesus.
categorically saying Quran denied, which I actually bring you more towards truth, and now you are changing it and say Quran seems like it wants to deny. Now that probably a better question or acquisition, and that we can deal with it. What's the reason? What's the hikmah behind it?
So,
and give me 2
Next
weeks
time when we meet, let's
2 weeks
follow up
time,
on that.
I will answer it. Yeah.
The Egypt Tower.
Egypt Tower.
What
Yeah.
was your
I think
point?
your question was, if my maybe serves me right, you're saying the Quran doesn't have a clue. Where Quran says, build a tower. Sorry, Pharaoh says to Haman, build a tower with a baked clay. Yeah.
Mud baked brick.
Make brick mud.
Mud.
Bake.
Can we read the verse, chapter 58, verse?
No, you make your point.
No, because if we okay. Well, I make my point. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Make
yeah.
brick-based
Yeah.
tower.
So your question was, your problem was that the Quran doesn't have a clue that they didn't use to make a clay towers. That's what your question was. What was your query? Remind me.
Brick-based towers.
That's right.
Non-existent from the time of Moses in Egypt.
Right. So Quran is wrong and Allah doesn't know what he's talking about. That's
Yes.
what Quran is wrong. Can you just explain more? What is your accusation here?
There's one more detail you forgot.
Because remember, I think if we read
The
the verse,
acquisition-
then the memory comes back. Let's read the
this
verse.
guy Haman, who was supposed to be involved in it, he's
Let's,
not find him
let's
anyway.
stick to
Let's
the
read the
tower
word.
alone.
No, I
The
think we-
accusation is this. The accusation is this. Yeah. From the nation of Egypt, we have plenty of archaeological artifacts.
Yeah.
Plenty of them.
Remember the verse?
Are you listening? 28:38.
28, 38. Yeah.
From the nation of
Yeah, I'm listening.
From the nation of Israel, we have plenty of archaeological artifacts.
Abbas, I'm listening.
From the nation of Egypt, we have plenty of archaeological artifacts.
Yeah.
Also from the time of Moses, we have plenty of archaeological artifacts. It's not as if we don't know, it's not as if it's all silent. It's completely the opposite. We have plenty of artifacts. But the fact of the matter is, despite the existence or the access to plenty of archaeological artifacts in the nation of Israel, what we find is a mud-baked brick-based tower is non-existent. But the Quran, Surah 28, Ayah 38, it says, the Pharaoh said, "O nobles, I do not know that you have any God beside myself. Haman, bake bricks out of clay and build a lofty palace for me so that I may mount up and be able to observe the God of Moses, even though I believe that Moses is a liar." This particular translation says palace, more literal translations say tower. So clearly the Quran talks about something which is non-existent. Baked brick-based tower. From the time of Moses, the crucial thing is tower. Baked brick-based tower. Non-existent. But Quran thinks they existed there at that time.
And you asked the
Historical
evidence.
error.
You asked the evidence to show us the
I am
evidence.
saying this is-
where is that tower and where are the evidence?
And I am going
Yeah.
to submit to you, this is completely unhistorical, characteristic of someone who does not know history, who can write such stuff to people who don't know history and therefore can't verify. That is what we find in the Quran, is my challenge.
Okay.
And what
my
is
answer,
your challenge?
My answer to you is this: you have a lot of false implications here. What you saying that the tower was built, yeah, and we don't find any evidence. Where's the tower? Remember when he was talking about Pharaoh? You need to go back in time when he was talking about when Moses already came and asked him to let my people go. So during that time, Pharaoh was a bit fed up of him in his lies according to him. So he just boasted. Look what he says in this verse. Very important. Three things he says wrong. All wrong, all lies of his. Three. First one is, "O nobles, I do not know that you have any God beside myself." Meaning, I know that I am the only God. There's no God beside that. That's the first lie he made. And I'm going to go to the third lie and then come back to the second lie. And third lie, he says, "I know that Moses is a liar." According to Allah, he's a prophet of God. So that's the second lie. In the middle, he lied as well. But in that lie, he's also trying to prove to the world, if Moses can do miracles, I can do bigger than him. Meaning what? Because since I am a God, I am going to order a man to bake a brick clay tower, which is not possible, which is impossible thing. Because since I am saying it, that's going to happen. So in his crazy rant, he was saying all sort of things, which doesn't make sense because he's claiming to be divine. But the point here is, what Haman answered? Did Haman says, "Yes, sir," or did Quran anywhere says the Haman say, "Yes, sir, I will build it," and Haman built it? It's completely Quran didn't say the tower was built. Quran didn't say even his minister Haman said, "I will." Quran only says in his crazy rant, he said these things. But how we know the tower can never be built? Quran, tower never built. You know why? Because very near after this event, he and his hosts were drowned in the sea. And if we follow the Quranic narrative about Pharaoh and Moses, we know the time of Moses was around Pharaoh preaching was not more than 1 year, maximum 1 year. Even your scholars say it was less than 1 year. And we know the towers are not built in 1 year. Pyramid took 20 years to build with 100,000 people working 10 hours a day. So it's never happened. All it was his words. He said it, and that's what Allah quoted it. Allah never says it was built.
So your explanation is
It was Pharaoh's crazy rant.
this is just
And Allah
pure
quoted it.
boasting
Exactly.
This never happened.
Because three boastings he made.
This is pure boasting.
Of the
It
Pharaoh.
never happened.
Yeah.
Is Abbas's rescue?
No. It's not Abbas rescue. Quran doesn't say that it was built.
Please.
Neither Quran says Haman says yes, yes, sir.
I heard
Haman was listening
I heard.
and he said, okay, he's saying it.
I heard what you said. So Abbas's help, rescue for the Quran is that the Quran never says this particular tower was never built. And it was just a
No,
boasting.
Quran never said it was built.
It was just a pure boasting by
But you
the
are asking
Pharaoh.
for the evidence. Where's the evidence? Quran didn't say it
this
was
is
built.
Abbas.
Quran says he said it.
This is Abbas's rescue. Unfortunately,
Abbas's rescue.
this is Abbas's explanation, which comes to the rescue of Quran. Unfortunately, the tafsir writers disagree with you.
Oh, please, go ahead.
So I'm going to read to you.
Go ahead. The three writers say it was built. Yeah?
I'm going to read to you from Ibn Kathir.
Okay.
One a very reputed tafsir for surah tafsir on this. What does Ibn Kathir say? This is what Ibn Kathir says. And Firan said, Firan is the way he represents Pharaoh. And let me just use the term Pharaoh there. And Pharaoh said, "Oh Haman, build me a star, that I may arrive at the ways of the heavens, and I may look upon the God of Musa. But verily, I think him to be a liar." This is his boasting so far. Thus it was made fair seeming in Pharaoh's eyes, the evil of his deeds, and he was hindered from the path. And the plot of Pharaoh led to nothing but loss and destruction. Had he stopped there, you might have a chance in what you said. But Ibn Kathir goes on to say, Pharaoh built this tower.
Ibn Kathir said that.
Exactly. You can read that for yourself if you want. Pharaoh built this tower, which was the highest structure. Ibn Kathir goes on even to explain or give details of this structure.
Okay.
What does he say? Pharaoh built this tower, which was the highest structure ever seen on earth, because he wanted to show his people that
Are you reading the commentary of the Quran?
This is Ibn Kathir. This is not Abbas. This is not this Abbas.
I agree with Ibn Kathir as well.
Yeah. Please read Ibn Kathir.
Ibn
Yeah.
Kathir says that Pharaoh built that tower.
Yes. Get help from your scholar also. Your scholar who compared Passover to Goa. That's a scholar
No.
of your Quran.
Come on, don't mock people here. Come
No,
on.
but when he was put on the limelight, trying to explain why the Quran doesn't talk about the Passover, he thinks the Passover was comparable to the Goa. What kind of scholar is he? Is that the kind of scholarship he does at the mosque and in other places? I'd really like to know. But now to come back to you. Ibn Kathir.
When I see people like you, I really thank Allah for His wonderful world, that He has created so many different people with different minds, with different abilities. I thank Allah for all the diversity He has created in this heavens
Amen.
and on the earth. So that's it.
Well, but as a scholar, you might want to also ask your Islamic Allah if he could help you in understanding what the important things of the nation of Israel are. Now you, Abbas, please, your explanation, the Abbas explanation we don't care about.
I'm reading Ibn Kathir.
No one, yeah, good, please. Pharaoh built this tower, which was the highest structure ever. Highest structure ever. Can you imagine how tall that would have been?
65 meter point 3 centimeters.
Well done, Yaya. Thank you. Thank you for the input. Highest structure ever seen on the earth, but he wanted to, yeah.
But hang on, man. My question here is, I didn't find what he's saying is highest structure.
It's
ever.
in your Ibn Kathir. This is not my source.
Because when Ibn Kathir started,
Quran, Tafsir, Ibn Kathir from your source.
look, what I'm saying is here, when Ibn Kathir started the interpretation of this verse, he said, "Oh chiefs, I know that you have no God other than me. Allah tells us about Pharaoh." Then he gathered and cried about loud. No. Before that, what I'm reading is so Allah seized him with punishment for his last. I'm just reading the one before that. When Allah says, then Allah seized him with a punishment for his last and first transgression. Verily, in this is an instinctive meaning. After that, Allah seized him. Allah is saying that in the Quran.
Forget about that, Abbas.
So
Come
he
to the
doesn't have
important
time
point.
to build the tower.
Now you're going back to your own excuse.
My
read further. Read further, please. Where is that? Yeah, read that, please. So Firaun said, "Oh Haman, yeah, there we go. There. Please read that.
Oh Haman,
build me a
star that I may arrive at the ways, the ways of the heavens, and I look upon the God of Musa, but verily I think him to be a liar. Thus it was made fair seeming in Firaun's eyes the evil of his deeds, and he was hindered from the path. And the plot of Firaun led to nothing but loss and destruction. Firaun built this tower, which was the highest
Pharaoh, according to Ibn Kathir. So we don't care about Abbas anymore.
Ever seen on earth, because he wanted to show the people that Musa was lying. So and I won't read all of it. What are we saying?
What do you mean? It's already there.
Claim that there was
Pharaoh, according to Ibn Kathir, built the tower.
Okay.
Where is it?
Okay.
What evidence is there?
No.
This is one of the tallest structures, according to Ibn Kathir.
Okay.
Where is it?
Okay, I'm going to ask you now. Here it comes, where the scholars are scholars as a human being, and Allah is God without an error. Look, Allah says in the Quran again and again, after the Moses showed 9 signs, what happened to Pharaoh and his people? They chased Moses and they were drowned. Quran is very clear about that. Chapter 10. Verse 90 onwards tells the Pharaoh chased Moses and they were drowned. The Quran is very clear. The Pharaoh didn't have the time to build the tower. Now, how long does it takes to build the tower? As we know, pyramids, I told you. Pyramids
Abbas,
brother, I have to make my point. I have to
make that point already.
No.
I'm not asking you for your conjectures.
You don't understand.
When do you live?
This is the problem.
What time?
This is the problem. When he just carry on talking,
Abbas,
I have to clarify your problem,
Abbas,
brother.
what time do we live in?
I'm talking for the
When did Ibn Kathir live?
For the sake
When do we live?
Who
are you? Who is Ibn Kathir?
Arul, I just need 1 minute to explain it.
Even Ibn Kathir.
I have. Okay, brother, 1 second, just 1 minute. So where was I? It's okay. So Quran is very clear. Moses came to ask Pharaoh to let my people go. Pharaoh didn't let it go until all the signs were shown. Then he let the people go. Now well, according to you 10 signs, according to Islam 9 signs. But we are not arguing about the signs here. But we're saying, as Pharaoh was going out, Moses was going out, Pharaoh chased him. And Pharaoh was drowned. Quran says he died. Chapter 10 verse 94 is clear that he died. Verse 93 or 94. He died. So when did Pharaoh had a time to build the tower? One second. He can't be. Moses is going so slowly. Here Pharaoh building the tower. Tower is built. Oh, hang on a minute. Let's catch up with Moses. It doesn't happen like that. So what I would ask Ibn Kathir, Ya Sheikh, tell me, where did you learn that Pharaoh had a time to build the tower?
I have one point. I have 1 point.
You can tell your point.
Ibn Kathir is completely wrong.
Abbas, you can ask for input from your Sheikh Ibn Kathir later on as to when the tower was built.
No,
you can
he
go
was wrong.
You can ask him later on if you get chance.
So
that
you
is
are
not my
appealing
question.
to a scholar.
That is not my
Kathir,
question.
and not to the Quran or Hadith.
I appeal not to Abbas, but to a reputable Islamic source. Not reputable in my eyes, because I think Ibn Kathir has plenty of issues himself. But that's not a point. But that's not my point.
Not possible to build a tower. There is
in other words, the Quran is
on.
completely nonsensical. This is what he is saying.
You need to consider this.
I need to.
When they are going through difficulty by the curse which come upon them by not obeying, they don't have time to build a tower.
Can you please stay quiet for some time? Abbas, the point is simple. You can ask your Sheikh. You can ask your Sheikh Ibn Kathir later on for when it was built, what kind of feelings he had, whether he liked to celebrate that or not. All those things you can ask him later. That's not my question.
No,
My
later.
question is.
We're gonna sort
My
out right
question
now.
is.
What do you mean
My
later?
question.
I'm going to clear
my
right now,
question. My question is, given that someone much more reputable amongst Muslims than this particular Abbas, who is Ibn Kathir, says
Personal attack.
the
That's the
tower
last rescue of
was
Arul.
built.
Personal attack.
Have you written a tafsir?
Are you talking Ibn Kathir or are you talking Abbas?
Have you written a tafsir?
No, I haven't.
Ibn Kathir has. If you write a tafsir today, how many people would read it? And how many people are reading Ibn Kathir's tafsirs?
Okay, I have to clarify your.
Now the
you have
point
lot-
is-
you have a lot of confusion in your mind about the
Point-
scholars. You
now
think
the
scholars,
confusion-
whatever scholars says, they have to be accurate. And I'm assuring you,
No, no, no.
the
I am
scholars
saying-
can make errors.
I am
and I
saying-
have seen myself,
I am
and I
saying-
can prove right now
I am
a
saying-
scholar making an error.
I am saying I don't know. I don't care what you say. What I am saying is Ibn Kathir
I don't know if
says.
you're doing that for camera. You're not
Ibn
letting me
Kathir-
speak. Maybe
Ibn
it is for
Kathir
camera. And I don't think it's fair.
The tower was built. Where is the evidence for the tower which was built out of mud, baked brick base?
So you are appealing to the scholar.
I am appealing to someone who lived before you.
Why every time I speak, you have to talk over me? I'll let you speak. Come on. You're a Christian, big hearted, like a Muslim. Alhamdulillah. Okay. So our first criteria is the Quran. Quran never said the tower was built. Quran says Pharaoh asked for tower for built, and then Quran also tells us when that was happening, Pharaoh chased Moses and Pharaoh was drowned. So if you follow, if you're a logical person, you can see clearly Pharaoh did not have a time to build a tower. So when Ibn Kathir says he built the tower, the question is, when did he build the tower? Because he commanded Haman in the presence of Moses when Moses was preaching them. He commanded them. And Moses, as according to your biblical scholars, Moses was not around more than 6 months. Maximum 6 months,
Abbas.
8 months. No.
Abbas.
I have to make my point for people to understand what I'm trying to say. So when Ibn Kathir said that he built the tower, when he had the time to build the tower, because he died straight away according to Islam. So Ibn Kathir is completely here wrong, and he's talking, and you know why he's wrong? Because Ibn Kathir cannot quote any hadith. The Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam say he built the tower. He cannot show from the Quran. This is his own understanding, and as a scholar, I have experienced myself. Scholars disagree with each other. Ibn Kathir rejected Jalalain. Jalalain disagree with Ibn Kathir. So you cannot appeal to Ibn Kathir as a complete fact or truth. They can make errors.
Tafsir-wise, according to you, these sources are unreliable.
I'm not saying that.
No, that's
I'm
exactly
saying that
what
they're
you
not
said.
I'm not saying
Ibn Kathir.
I'm saying
Ibn Kathir's statement you are saying is not true.
what I'm saying is Ibn Kathir is not perfect like Quran. Quran is perfect.
Unreliable. That's the other way of saying the same thing.
No, unreliable. There are many things good and knowledgeable we can learn, but we should not rely on one scholar. What we see, if there is something.
Do you think Ibn Kathir has got this wrong?
No, yeah, absolutely.
So
What's
when some people get it wrong, can we not use the expression unreliable?
not wholly reliable. Yes. Okay.
People get it wrong.
What we do in Islam?
Are they not unreliable?
What we do in Islam, when something is ambiguous in the Quran, not very clear, what we do, we don't read one scholar. We read Ibn Kathir, we read Jalalain, we read Maududi, we read Tabari.
Enough of your help.
No,
Brother
brother.
Darren,
So if
when
all of
someone-
them in consensus
when
saying
someone-
that happens,
when
then
someone
there
is
is a point.
wrong or lying,
It's got to be double standards, because so often when there's textual variance amongst manuscripts for us, we all say that it's unreliable. So we have to use the same standard and metric of application to say that it could be unreliable.
So just to narrow down, brother, Ibn Kathir makes
I gotta be going
incorrect
now.
statements, and therefore, shall we say Ibn Kathir is unreliable?
That's it.
And that's a sensible statement to make. And
No,
that's exactly
I
what
wouldn't
Abbas
say that,
says.
because when you say unreliable, that means anything you pick Ibn Kathir, you can't rely. What the word should be,
If Ibn Kathir gets something
Ibn Kathir
wrong-
is not perfect. That's what we say.
If Ibn Kathir gets some things clearly wrong, the other things which we don't know whether he has got wrong or not, can we trust him?
No, what we should do, we should look Hadith, Quran, and if Ibn Kathir
Is
going
there
on,
any reliable source which is entirely true?
Quran, of course.
Nothing else according to you.
And Sunnah of the Prophet,
Which is
of the prophets, which are many of the Sunnahs are mentioned in the Hadith, and many
in
of
other
the
words, you are
many of the
saying-
Sunnahs
and in
are,
other words, you are saying-
are through continuity of Ummah. Whatever people practice from the beginning,
Is there
even if it was
any
not
hadith
mentioned.
source which is completely correct according to you?
Hadith source.
Muslim,
If you are trying to say Hadith
Sahih
source,
al-Bukhari,
if you are trying to say that,
Sahih Muslim,
if you are trying
anything
to,
which
if
is
you're trying to ask
completely
me,
true according to you.
what are you trying to say to me? Do I believe the Hadiths are perfect, Bukhari and Muslim? The answer is no.
In other words,
Only
hadith.
Quran. Only Quran is perfect.
In other words, according to you, tafsirs of errors, hadiths of errors, according to you. Yeah?
Yeah.
Let me tell you this.
It's a human effort.
Let me tell you this. Yeah. For Muslims across the world, this is very important. Which is, when a source lies or tells an incorrect thing once, it means he has lost credibility.
Do you agree that?
Yes, I do.
You agree on that?
That's exactly my point. When you lie once, according to my knowledge, I won't know in which of your other statements can I trust you. I won't know. You might be lying in all sorts of other things. In other words,
It's going to be the second time I'm shaking your hand. Congratulations to you, brother. That's exactly what I've been trying to tell Christians for years. If you find
Stick to
one
the
error
hadith.
in the Bible,
Stick to
how
the
can
hadith.
you rely your eternity on that book?
Stick to
And
hadith.
the Bible is full of errors. Do you
stick to
agree?
the
Does the
hadiths.
Bible have errors or not?
No. Stick to the hadiths.
Jay Smith
Tafsirs.
standing over there say Bible has 40 errors at least.
Stick
40
to the hadiths.
contradictions.
Stick to
Jay
the
Smith over there standing there. Scholars are telling us right now
to the-
there are interpolations in the Bible. There are additions and there are fabrications. Are you denying that?
Are you ashamed of your hadiths and tafsirs? We were talking about your hadiths and tafsirs.
I am ashamed of all this daif and fabricated
No.
hadith.
You said
Because they are not hadith.
you agreed with us
Yes.
that there is no hadith source.
It's 100% perfect.
True.
Yes.
So all hadith sources have errors.
My yardstick is Quran, and Quran is 100% perfect.
Please agree
And
on this
hadith
verse.
is a human
Please
effort.
agree
even
on
though
this
they were
verse.
sincere, but there are some errors. You know why?
Please agree on
because
this
in
verse,
Bukhari
Abbas.
and Muslim, which are the most authentic books, I find contradictions in them.
Please agree
Even
on this
Sheikh
verse,
Albani,
please.
even Sheikh
Abbas.
Albani, the recent scholar of Hadith, one of the greatest scholars of Hadith in recent times, he found errors in the Bukhari and Muslim,
Abbas.
and he said these
Abbas,
hadiths are daif.
Please, can you give a simple agreement to this statement, which is there is no hadith source which is entirely true.
100% perfect. Yes.
True, which is entirely true. Yeah, there are errors.
You see, there's
even
you
according
are
to
playing with
where
the words here. I'm saying 100% perfect. When you say entirely true, meaning anything,
don't like the term truth, do you?
anything you read,
You don't like the
anything
term
you
truth,
read
do you?
is a lie.
You
Anything-
don't
what
like
we do,
the truth
what
term
we do,
truth, do you?
what we do when we read the hadith, if something is clear with the Quran, we just follow it. But there is something ambiguous, we need to research a little bit more. We need to find
Abbas, are you
more
happy with the
sources.
term truth? Are you happy with the term
I
truth?
am a seeker of truth, brother.
When someone
I'm very happy with the
when
truth.
someone has made an incorrect statement, can we say he made a statement which is untruthful? Can we say that?
If it's something, sorry?
If someone makes a statement which is incorrect, can we say he has made statements which are untruthful?
Absolutely.
And
But hang
is
on,
there-
one thing.
is
We
there-
also need to
is
see
there-
if it's a deliberately
I know,
something
forget
done.
about deliberate
Yes.
and in-
or,
undeliberate.
or by mistake. So we need to judge on that.
Abbas, please get that later. My simple point is there is no
Some truth.
hadith source, there is no tafsir which is
100% true.
which is true. Yeah.
No, don't say that. 100% correct. When you say true, that means we just put them aside and we just don't read them.
Yeah, if they have
No,
errors.
no, that's not enough. They are a good source, and Sahih Bukhari and Muslim especially, there are most of them, I would say maybe 90% are accurate. Yeah? 10% could be errors there.
So now come back to the Quran.
And then
so you have
we can't just leave them.
you have danced around an obvious point, which is that you said the sunnah of the prophet,
Prophets,
the prophets.
Sunnah of Ibrahim, Sunnah of Musa, Sunnah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam,
The example of
Isa.
Muhammad is
All
very
the
important according to
Sunnah
you.
is
The example of Muhammad is very important to you, except you are saying hadith sources have errors.
Yes.
There is no hadith source without an error, according to you. So Sunnah is unreliable.
No.
The
You don't know the
example
difference
of
between Sunnah and Hadith.
the example.
Every Hadith is not a Sunnah.
The example of
But
the Prophet.
every Sunnah is in the Hadith. There's a difference here. Sunnah came to us from generation to generation.
Stop,
Not
stop.
from Bukhari or Muslim. You
Stop,
must understand that.
stop
You need
dancing
to
around.
understand.
Stop
I'm not dancing around.
the
You don't know
obvious
what you're talking
point.
about. You don't know what you're talking
Unreliable
about.
history
You don't even
of
know the difference between
Islam.
Hadith and Sunnah.
Unreliable history
Do you
of
know-
Islam
do you know the difference between
in
Hadith
the
and Sunnah?
non-Quranic material
this is
as per
this
your
is-
agreement.
Arul,
Now let's get
Arul,
to the
this
Quran.
is your ignorance.
Abbas,
really dripping
let's get to the Quran.
dripping from you.
Now,
You don't know the
coming to the
difference between
Quran.
Sunnah and Hadith. Do you know
Abbas,
the, do you
coming
know the
to the
difference between Sunnah
Quran,
and Hadith?
are you saying,
You don't.
are you
see, you
bold,
don't. You're ignorant.
Abbas, are you bold enough to say
I am
the
saying it. How many
Quran,
times? What?
the Quran does not have inaccurate points,
Quran is perfect.
no inaccuracies.
Absolutely, not at all.
So,
What about?
I know where you're going to go into Quranic thing, but I need to do my Maghrib Salah as well. I'm getting late as well.
so you can go to your salah.
We can have,
But before that,
we
can
can have a
I
topic
please challenge you?
I'll challenge you. So let's have a debate with contradictions of the Bible and Quran. I've been challenging you for a couple of years now. You haven't shown up to talk to me. I
Talking
said
about
let's
the
talk
Quran,
about the contradictions and errors of Bible
Talking
and
about the
Quran. Let's have a debate about that.
Talking about the Quran has historical errors,
Not a single error.
scientific errors,
False implication of yours.
contradictions,
Not at all.
absurdities,
In your mind.
and on top of them, the
What is the
Quran does not have anything to suggest that it is supernatural in its origin.
When
Did
Quran
you
say
carefully
it's,
note-
it's a word of the Lord of the worlds,
Abbas, my challenge,
that is supernatural in
Abbas,
itself.
my
By saying
challenge,
it.
my challenge to you has been extremely clear.
What?
I'd like to talk about these areas. Quran has scientific errors. Quran has historical errors. Quran has
Like
contradictions.
the one you just proved about the clay.
Quran
doesn't.
has
It's the Ibn Kathir
contradictions.
saying that. Ibn
Quran
Kathir didn't quote any
has
hadith. Where
absurdities.
did he learn that from? This is his own
Quran
understanding.
has
Quran
ab-
didn't.
Quran has absurdities, and on top of that, there is nothing in the Quran
We will talk
to
about it.
suggest
Brother
a
Arul,
supernatural
I think I refuted
origin.
you very successfully. That's why you had to run to Ibn Kathir. The verse of the
Run to
Quran,
Ibn
the
Kathir.
verse of the Quran, chapter 28, 38, did not say that he built it.
Ibn
Didn't
Kathir
even
says
say
that-
Didn't even say that Haman say yes, sir. He was boasting in his crazy rant. and
According
Allah-
to this
Allah-
Abbas,
Allah quoted
according
the
to this
rant.
21st century Abbas, who is no scholar with no tafsir to his credit, Ibn Kathir disagrees with you.
Ad hominem. Okay.
Ibn
If you
Kathir
read-
disagrees with you.
If you read the Quran as a whole, you see what happened to Pharaoh. He didn't even have the time to build the tower because the Moses
That's your
was there.
explanation.
He let the people go.
Ibn Kathir
But that's what the
disagrees
Quran-
with you.
That's what the Quran says again and again.
Ibn Kathir-
He chased. Pharaoh drowned. He
Tell
chased
me
them.
precisely where the Quran says when the Pharaoh started building this tower. Where does the Quran say that?
Quran is talking about
Please.
when the Moses was around. That's,
Where?
no,
When?
That is why the
When,
Quran.
when,
That
when?
is why. Okay. Do you know
When?
when Moses came to Pharaoh? Before that, Pharaoh didn't even know. Pharaoh only
When?
know.
When? How long?
Okay.
How
when-
long?
Are you gonna let me speak? When Pharaoh Moses came, there's many places in the Quran. When Moses came to Pharaoh to say, "Believe in my God and let my people go," that is how he became aware of Moses' God.
Abbas.
And we, even in your Bible,
Abbas,
it's not
the
more than
last
1 year.
Straw,
Scholars say it was
last
not more.
straw that you are holding on to is a simple claim that you are saying the Pharaoh did not have enough time to build the tower. The question I'm asking
And
you,
Bible
the
is
question I'm
evidence to that,
asking you,
and Quran is
the
evidence.
question. No, don't come to the Bible. You
talking to
have rubbished the Bible earlier. Now, when you
But you don't rubbish the Bible.
I don't. the rubbish is a very valid
So
historical.
I'm going to keep coming back to
The
you.
Bible,
Your Bible
is
is
a very
clear.
valid historical resource. I'm willing to talk about that later. But now, as far as you are concerned, you rubbish the Bible. So don't ever go to the Bible and seek for help. Don't do that. Look at the Quran. Tell me.
I'm talking to Christian. Why I have
Look
to
at the
answer you
Quran.
through the Quran, but you don't believe in the Quran?
Look at the Quran.
You don't believe in the Quran. Why do you have to answer you from the
Because
Quran?
you are saying, according to the Quran,
And the Bible. And the Bible.
according to the Quran, is there any suggestion as to the time that the Pharaoh had before the nation of Israel left.
What you need to understand the whole.
No. Is there any information on the time available?
The story of Moses.
You just made that up. Is there any information in the Quran?
Look, first of all, I need to do my Maghrib Salah, yeah? And you know the Moses story, story of Moses is mentioned all over the Quran. So what we need to see.
Is there any information on how long, how much time the Pharaoh had to build the tower? Is there any information in the Quran? Or did you just make that up?
I didn't. I'm going to make a claim, and I challenge you to refute that claim whenever you have time, or we can discuss that in detail, and I will show you the evidence in the Quran. But my claim is this: if you read the whole story of the Pharaoh and the Moses, you gather all the different verses, you will find out that Moses came to Pharaoh and say, "Let my people go," and Pharaoh said no. Then Allah gave him 9 signs, and then Pharaoh let the people go, and then Pharaoh chased him and he was drowned. So that period of Moses coming and preaching him and going is not more than maybe a year, not
Who
more than
says
a
so?
year.
Is that in the Quran? Is that in the Quran?
No, this is what it is.
Is that in the Quran?
The time period is not in the Quran.
So you just made that up purely to suit your argument?
No, what I'm saying is, when Quran says Quran is muhaymin, a yardstick, a criterion over the other scriptures, meaning anything goes against the Quran, we reject it.
How much time did the Pharaoh have? Is that in the Quran?
Anything agrees with the Quran, we accept it. But anything ambiguous, neither going against, neither
you make things up.
This is how the criterion works.
Does the Quran
Why
say?
you keep cutting me off?
I
think you understand what I'm trying to say, and
Does
you don't
the
want people
Quran-
to hear.
does
So
the
when the Bible says something which is not in the Quran, we take it as a historical fact. And the Bible is clear about that. When the Moses came to Pharaoh,
Did you see what was happening there, Brother Darrell?
Just continue.
now when you say yardstick, meaning something goes with it, we take it, goes against it, we don't take it, we reject it, and something which is nothing, neither against, neither with, then we see in the history how can we trust that or not, and we have no problem rejecting. Then the Moses, when they came to Pharaoh, that time period was not more than maximum 1 year.
In other words, what he has done is, he has rubbished the Bible just
I say
to
not
make
as a whole.
He has rubbished the Bible when he wanted to rubbish the Bible to make sure the Quran doesn't fall apart.
Not when I
He did
want
that.
it. Not when I want it. I say when it goes against the Quran.
When the Bible stands against the Quran, he has rubbished the Bible, and later on, when he wants the help of the Bible, he comes back to the Bible. That's what he has essentially done.
But this is how it is.
The
Quran has 6,000 verses. Bible has 31,000 verses. So now Quran cannot explain every single event of the Bible because Quran is not big enough.
So, now,
so
Abbas,
what we do, anything goes
Abbas,
against
Abbas,
the principle of the
we'll
Quran.
deal with your
we
Mickey Mouse
reject.
story later,
Anything
please.
with the principle of the Quran, we agree.
Abbas.
And what happens in the middle?
Abbas.
The historical events.
Abbas.
We accept them if it's a known truth. We accept them.
You could
because
write
Quran is
that.
not going against
You
that.
could write that up on paper and give that to Disney filmmakers. They might be interested in your story. What I'm asking, I'm going to wrap
Disney
this
make
up.
all the good stories.
I'm going
Every
to,
story
I'm-
of Disney is
I'm
not a
going-
fiction. You know that.
I'm going
Disney
to,
had made a story
I'm-
about the Moses.
I'm
That's
going
not a
to-
fiction.
I'm going to wrap this up here, and my challenge to you
And
is
I'm
simple.
going to go there, pray, and I'm going
And
to
my-
pray for you.
and my challenge-
maybe you wrap up your Bible forever and
my
put them
challenge-
somewhere and pick up the Quran.
And my challenge to you is simple. I am saying,
Okay,
I am saying-
2 weeks time, wallahi, I promise I will answer this your question. That how I worked that out, that it was Pharaoh didn't have time to build the tower.
good.
Okay.
On top of that, can I please challenge you by saying Quran has scientific errors, Quran has historical errors, Quran has contradictions, Quran has absurdities, and Quran on top of all these things has nothing whatsoever to prove supernatural origin. Nothing in the Quran exhibits supernatural origin at all. That is my challenge, if you're willing to take that challenge up.
And we're going to, same thing with the Bible as well. I will say the same thing. Plus I add, the Bible has false prophecies as well.
Try that. Good to see you today.
Yeah, absolutely.
to see you today.
But 2 weeks time, I'll answer your question about this Pharaoh and time. And the first one was you were asking
Passover.
about the Passover thing.
How come Islamic Allah
God
has
willing,
poor memory?
God willing, I will answer that. And
how
never
come-
again you will repeat that question again in the public.
How come
And a lot of ignorant
Islamic
Muslims
Allah have poor memory about a significant event of the history of Israel?
That's your claim. He doesn't.
Passover, significant. How come Islamic Allah doesn't remember that?
People have already heard you. Why you keep just putting in their mind? You're brainwashing your people.
Good to see you,
I'm
Abbas.
just joking. Nice
Good to see you.
Yeah, peace be to you.
See you later. Sorry, it was a bit heated up right from the start. Various conversations. Partly, I think it's my mistake. I do apologize. But fact of the matter is, we have been discussing about a couple of things today. One is the fact of the Quran completely ignoring the Passover. That's correct. The Quran thinking that there were only 9 signs that Moses showed to the Pharaoh. Only 9, not 10. A simple reading of Surah, I think 17, Ayah 101 or 110, I can't remember, tells us that the Quran thinks that there were only 9 signs, not 10. A simple reading tells us that the Quran seems to ignore the 10th one, the 10th sign. And we also spoke about the pattern of the Quran denying the death of Jesus, the Quran completely ignoring or forgetting the Passover lamb, which is in the Old Testament. And thirdly, the fact that the Quran mentions that there were only 9 signs. Put them together, there is a pattern. The Quran seems to ignore the Passover sacrifice pattern that began in the Old Testament, and the ultimate fulfillment in Jesus Christ himself.
Amen.
So that is one broad area we touched upon today. And the other thing was Abbas's mud-baked brick-based tower. Abbas was hoping to say that he could explain away the claim of this particular tower in Surah 28, Ayah 38 by saying it was a mere boast. It never happened according to the Quran. Early tafsir writers disagree with him. Ibn Kathir, on his tafsir about this passage, says that such a tower was built, and it wasn't just that it was built, but it was one of the tallest towers of that time. We know how tall pyramids were even at that time, so we'd be hoping to find such a very tall mud-baked brick-based tower in the land of Egypt. But there is zilch evidence for such a thing. Quran contradicts with established history, and we have closed our conversation with Abbas by challenging him by saying Quran has historical errors, Quran has scientific errors, it has contradictions, absurdities, and on top of that, no content which can be claimed to be supernatural in its origin. Thankfully, Abbas at multiple points in time made a few admissions. Quran rejects the Bible. So there is no point Muslims going around acting as if they're happy with the Jews, they're happy with the Shema and this and that and so on. The Quran denies the Bible, rejects the Bible, considers the Bible to be unreliable. They don't use the Bible, they don't care about the Bible. On top of that, Abbas also agreed there is no reliable source, hadith source or tafsir, no reliable early non-Quranic Islamic source according to Abbas. So the only thing pending in his mind is that Quran is reliable, and that is why we have challenged on the Quran having scientific errors, historical errors, absurdities, contradictions, and nothing to suggest supernatural origin. So that's my wrap up. Brother Darren, did you want to add anything?
So I just want to add the surahs and the ayahs for Muslims or Christians to check in regards to the 9 signs, okay, or any discourse on the signs and the events that took place in the Exodus. So we read from Surah 7, ayat 133 down to 136. Surah 27 verse 12 says, "And enter your hand into the opening of your bosom, it shall come forth white without evil among 9 signs to Pharaoh and his people. Surely they are transgressing people." So as far as we're concerned, Allah's either not all-knowing or he's forgetful of the 10th plague. It's just not there. The onus is on Abbas to come back now and show the 10th plague, to show the Passover lamb. Why is it important? Why is it significant? Because Jesus dies at the time of Passover. His bones are not broken. He is the Passover lamb that was slain for the sins of the world. It's obvious, as far as the Quran is concerned, it's not trying to make those links or connections at all. That's why we can't find it, and that's why it's not there. And I'm wrapping up.
So thank you. Islam is the biggest hoax in the entire human history. And that is, I mean, if that were the only point, I wouldn't be so sad. The tragedy is that 1 billion plus Muslims have fallen for this hoax. The fact of the matter, my dear friends, it is only in the Bible that we have revelation which is verifiable to be from God. Only in the Bible we have signs and wonders and well-defined prophecies. Islam is nowhere close to the Bible. The Bible is supernatural in its origin, and therefore come to the God of the Bible. Come to Jesus Christ. It is Jesus Christ who shed his blood on the cross or in Calvary who is able to save you. It is Jesus Christ who said, I am the way, the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. Jesus alone is the way, and Islam clearly is against Jesus. Islam clearly is against the Bible. Thank you very much. God's richest blessings to you.
One last point to make just before we go is Brother Arul is talking about the pattern of things being hidden in regards to detail that connects to Jesus as the Messiah, the death, the crucifixion and the resurrection. What we also find is when we go to the story of Cain and Abel in the Quran, we hear that sacrifices are brought, but no lamb is brought like the lambs were brought in the biblical account. Also, when we go to the account of Jonah, as far as I know in the Quran, Jonah was in the belly of a whale for 3 days. That's not in the Quran. We don't find the 3 days. And why is that significant again? Because Jesus Christ, when he was asked by the Pharisees to give a sign, was said that the only sign that he would that would be given is that the sign of Jonah, which is being in the belly of the earth for 3 days before resurrection. We don't find those accounts in the Quran. We don't find those details. Islamic Allah somehow just seems to miss them over, basically because they foreshadow Christ and his detailed death and resurrection for all of our sins on the cross.
Thank you very much. That's very insightful also. So the pattern is very, very important. Thank you. God's blessings. Bye-bye.